Hello, everyone. Joel Clark here. Please don't judge the way that I live. I don't have time to reset my camera or make my bed. I'm busy writing, as you can tell from over here. Mm. My coffee has gone cold. This is take number 4, and I've still failed to fix the autofocus on this stupid camera. So, get ready to deal with that forever. Anyway, so Kickstarter. We're kickstarting Acid and Steel. This is day, I'm gonna say 3 by the time you see this. So we're a little deep into it. That's okay. Day 1 we funded, done. So that's great. And we've got a lot of new people backing us too. A lot of excited new people. They're backing for the core book and for the Acid and Steel supplement. So y'all are gonna have a really good time with this one. As you can see, I've got the actual Acid and Steel document sitting here. This is one of 7 different versions of this save file. I've squirreled around my internet and like cloud and other places. I'm really paranoid when it comes to writing. So one of the reasons the core book is so scattered is because I kept losing versions of it, and I'd have to find my old recovery versions and use that as the core of the new writing. So we're not doing that this time. We're just consistently updating all of them, and we're just gonna have one final document. So this is the one I'm gonna let you guys see though, because it's got all kinds of cool stuff in it. You're currently looking at the end of Chong-Chi's powers, where he can like turn into an ocean of primordial chaos, and the beginning of the bestiary of hell. So you might notice this is the page layout and not the actual pages. For whatever reason, I can't seem to actually get the pages to show up. I don't know what's going on with that. So I've just blown this up so you can see that. And we're just going to kind of scoot down a little bit. So I don't really have I wanted to talk to you guys about how the Kickstarter's going, what writing is remaining, and just kind of little general stuff like that. So Kickstarter's going well. We kind of plateaued on day 2. We've only had like 2 backers today. We had about 90 followers, and we have about 45 backers currently. I'm imagining we'll convert the rest, which leaves us around the 4 to 5K mark. That's not bad. That buys us some more art. And I figure with 30 days in the whole month, and like a whole Discord full of enthusiastic supporters, and the holiday where you can buy this for someone else if you're really feeling generous, then I figure we'll probably get to about 4 or 5K, which is where we left off in the last Kickstarter as a conservative estimate. So and the fact that we've already funded is completely incredible. I'm really happy with that. So no worries. The project is going forward, which is really satisfying. And conservatively, we'll probably get about twice as much as this, just looking at the numbers right now. So that's really good. So that's not a bad minimum. That's a pretty good place to be. I would like to break out a little bit and get to a bigger general audience. That's hard to do for an indie. You can, but the ones I usually see doing that, they get Kickstarter attention. Like the actual Kickstarter brand puts a spotlight on them. It's hard to be there because I don't know what exact criteria that requires, and a lot of very big, very cool projects don't get that spotlight. Like I don't think that Axe got that spotlight, and Axe really deserved it. They're a phenomenon. Exalted, I don't know if they got it either. They had a really big existing fan base, so I think they broke 300K with the third edition Kickstarter, and good on them. And their other Kickstarters since then have been pretty big too, so it's not like that they don't still have an audience. Um, the thing though is about Exalted, I don't hear anyone talking about it anymore. Like I used to hear people talk about Exalted online and in person, and it was like a phenomenon. And nowadays, I just don't. There's a bunch of very quiet fans of that game. But yeah, the ones I usually see breaking out are things like Coyote and Crow broke out really big. They got a big spotlight thrown on them. The Clay That Woke blew up really big. These are a while ago. Recently, I think Shadow Dark got huge, so good on them. Um, Mostly, I think Shadow Dark was mostly like you know YouTube clout turning into Kickstarter money. I'm not a YouTube guy. I can't do it. As you can tell, I am not photogenic, and I have no idea how to make a video. My competence lies solely in writing elf games. So that's what I do. Unfortunately, making a great elf game and making $1 million off an elf game are not related at all. If anyone has ever seen the rules for Coyote and Crow, you know what I'm talking about. So the secret to breaking out and the secret to making a truly great elf game, not congruent. So it's unfortunate, but I don't know how to break out much further than we have. I've got a few more interviews lined up this week. I'm going to be talking to the basic expert, and the T-shirt historian invited me back onto his thing. I'm going to see if I can make that happen. That'd be cool. I love hanging out with him and his crew. Really good folks there, including the incredible Grim Jim. So that's the Kickstarter news. Nothing super incredible. I'm really happy that we funded. Um, and I'm happy that we're likely to hit about the numbers of the last Kickstarter. It would be a really nice signal to see it go further than that. I really was hoping to get to 10K with this one. 10K would be a signal that not only that, like, our core audience and maybe some new people are enjoying this, but that we're actually growing into the direction of this being like a secondary career for me. I would love that. Right now, it's got to be relegated to hobby because I got to make money and eat. It's just how it is. But like this thing got to 10K or higher, that's like, okay, well, maybe I can go down to part time with my job because this thing could pay a pretty good amount. I've also noticed that anytime I go on Black Lodge or anytime they mention me, I get really big boosts in core sales numbers. So like I sold a bunch of hardbacks not related to this Kickstarter last month. I just sold another one today. Those things like the hardbacks moving like that, that's new people discovering the game and wanting to play it. They're actually trying it out. Now, unfortunately, as we all know, the core book needs another pass for clarity. That's going to happen. I just, it was my first game ever, so I didn't know how to do that as well back then. I've gotten better at it since, but you're talking about like 3 or 4 years worth of writing RPGs under my belt since then. So, yeah. The drawback of that is that a lot of people will start trying to play the game, bounce off it, and then just leave it on the shelf, or sell it. So that's kind of rough for me. Sorry, I got a bit of a cough. So that is what it is. We're not perfectly optimized for anything right now because this is sort of a one-man operation, and you don't have the best man for the job in an event. But we did kickstart in one day, so the groundwork has been laid very well, and the success is decent. It's not enough to like crack that little ceiling. That then like that 10K number. That's a magic number, guys. If we get there, that's good. That is a things are going to come faster and they will be of higher quality number. If we don't get there, well, this will be better than the core book just from my raw skill. And I've planned it very carefully, so it's going to have some very nice layout, no more gaps. There's a lot of blank space in the core book. We're not going to have that with this one. I fully intend to go through it very carefully and put a like an index and a lot of little quality of life things, bookmarks. I'm going to put in the PDF. Like little things that have been asked for. They're going to be here. So there you go. It will be better, even if nothing else changes beyond the 2 to 5K Kickstarter. You're going to all get that. Now, do we start broaching past 10K? A lot of stuff is going to start changing. Like the first big thing that's going to change is that there's going to be more and better art in the core book or in this core supplement, which will be really, really nice. But the other thing is that I'll be able to dedicate more time to it. More time means it will come out faster. Right now, I'm looking at a June, July release date for this hardback next year. That's when I would like to have it done and in your hands. That's really not too brutal. I made sure to get a ton of the writing done before I started this thing, and I wanted to bring you through the rest of the writing that's remaining as well. So, what have we written? What needs to get written? Let's go on to that. All right. So I don't want to get too scattered here, but very very briefly, all of these 7 Ashura are all written. The core introductory stuff for both the acid half and the steel half of the book is written. It's done. I don't have to worry about it. So that's what is completed so far. So what needs to get completed? There are 4 robot paradigms. The current stage of writing is I have a draft of those in pen and paper. Good old pen and paper. The first stage of all of my writing. And I have the skeleton of that in the core book. So that needs to get done. Same thing with the three Bhaktaraban Kala, which are the kung fu styles of the Great Nations. Those are smaller, though, than the other kung fu styles by a pretty significant margin. They don't have supreme techniques, for example. So I was able to write two of them literally the day before yesterday. God, they're written down again in paper form, but I'm about to put those into the core document and share them with you guys because we have backers now, so I can just show this to you, which is great. So that's 2/3 written right now. Aside from that, the main stuff I've got to work on is lores. I do have a bestiary for both of those. I've got the Clockwork Bestiary, and I've got the Hell Bestiary. Hell Bestiary has all of the monsters already in it. I've just got to stat them and add a little spice to each one of them, and then I've got to figure out how to commission the art for them because I want them all to have as much art as possible. And then the Clockwork Bestiary, I really want to finish writing the different nations lores before I work on that. I find like knowing kind of like what I want in a place is an organic process and it doesn't like happen in one lump sum. I'll little inspiration here, I'll write a little, I'll get a little more inspiration there, I'll write a little. And at the end of that process, when I've got the lores done, that's when I'm like, okay, now I kind of know what sort of monsters these people have. I know what their myths are. Like, I know what troubles I want them to have and like what metaphors I want to turn into monsters. And that's when I want to write down the ideas for the Gremlin Bestiary. I really like the idea of Babil Kaminar being kind of hostile to its inhabitants, and like actualizing that metaphor as monsters is like you want to get that spice right, you know, because it you don't not every GM is gonna want to have like a metaphor as something you can physically punch and make that like this dramatic character arc. They don't not everyone's gonna want to do that. Some people just want to punch stuff, right? That's fine, but certainly there's some GMs who, like me, are just absolute narcissists and will want to have these like artfully crafted what's a good narcissist term for this? Bespoke. There we go. They want these bespoke experiences with these carefully crafted narrative arcs of idealized drama, and for that you want the monsters to be metaphors so we can huff our own fumes while we read through them and like hum softly to ourselves like, yes, clearly this is a metaphor for the dehumanization of industrialization, like, so I want to make sure I give those guys what they want because that's me and I write these for me first and foremost of all. So yeah, so the fart huffy stuff is going to have to be later, but yeah, so the bulk of the writing is going to be the robot paradigms, which is the robots turning into bigger, more elaborate machines and then ultimately cities stuff. Um, and the lores are going to be like the little hex crawl things, basically like filling up stuff, monsters, the societies of the damned or of the population in Babil Kaminar, like all the little like dramas that they have together, all the little political intrigues, all the stuff to fight about, resource wars, ideological crusades and purges, that kind of thing. Like that's all I gotta write all that stuff. It's if you're familiar with the lores in the core book, it's basically a bunch of charts, and that's I'm not giving it its full justice, but it is basically a bunch of charts. And the hardest part of those is not writing them down. The hardest part of those is the generating of the ideas, and that's a diegetic process. It happens, in little spurts, like I'm talking about. Like I'll have an idea, and then I'll kind of write a little. Then I'll have an idea, and then I'll write a little. So that's one of the most time-consuming parts of the writing. Apparently, the robot kung fu is going to get written really quickly. I thought that might take a little while, but I got inspired for 2/3 of it and got it written down in paper yesterday. So we're just going to do that. I've already that's I'm not like creating any new rules tech there, so that's a real quick writing job. I'm going to do that today, and I hope to post it up as soon as I'm done, so you guys can enjoy that. Um, the robot paradigms are something I want to pause on for a minute and make sure I'm giving you guys an idea of like, because that could take a little longer than I suspect. It's one of those things where I'm not just doing something that already exists. I'm doing something very new with a few things that already exist. Like there's already rules for buildings and like resource allocation stuff, even power lines and power grids. Like I've got rules for all that stuff. Same thing with vehicles. I've got rules for vehicles. Like I know how vehicles work, how to repair them, to refuel them, to reload them, to pilot them, to use them in a fight, blah blah blah. I've got rules for all that stuff, right? So we don't have to worry about that part of it. The part I'm worried about is that's not so central to the character that it is literally your character sheet. That's where I'm going to start to kind of that's where we sort of drift into weird territory. um, I've got existing rules tech in this book. Oh, no, this way. This book. Yeah, it's reversed. Sorry, but I've got existing rules tech in this book right here about turning into a city as a demon. So the way you do that isn't you roll effort and do kicks and punches anymore. Now you roll cataclysm dice and you make like localized earthquakes and snowstorms and things like that. So there's rules for that, but I haven't yet pioneered that for being a vehicle. So like if you are Kit from Knight Rider, I'm sure some of you get that reference. You know, the ones who were able to draw a pension. If you're Kit though, like, are you still rolling effort? I don't really have rules for a car piloting itself yet, so that's something to think about. Because the effort pool does a thing where it gives you multiple actions, and really you only have one action if you're a car, right? You can like drive. You're not going to throw punches and kicks as a car. So I may have to innovate a new subsystem for like pulling off six stunts and things like that, which is going to be kind of like an adjunct to the agility rules. That literally came to me as I was talking to you, and I may have to innovate that and put it in here because it has to be right, you know. So that, however, things like that, unexpected elements of the design can delay the writing. So I want to make sure I'm giving you guys an idea. It's like, yeah, these are written down, you know, technically, and they are. You know, I've got the skeleton for them, but as I put them together, I'm going to be asking myself those questions, like, okay, well, what does your effort pool do when you're a car? And if I don't have a good answer, I'm going to have to design one, and there's some invisible chunks of writing that I'm not aware of. But yeah, in very very like again, just kind of recap, uh, robot stuff I got to write, setting stuff I got to write, and that's basically it. Technically, I've got the bestiaries to write too, um, but let's be real, those don't take a lot of time. Like if you look at the bestiary in the core book, the stat blocks are very small and efficient. It just isn't, and I've got the ideas for all these things already made because I did that back when I was writing down the general descriptions of the different ashura. So the most time consuming bestiary again is going to come from the robot half of the book. So that's the actual writing that has to get done. Also, the two the two design your own thing tiers in my Kickstarter were sold, so I also have to write those. There's going to be a nation that I want to write, which is going to be a kung fu style and a paradigm at a minimum. I would like to do a lore for them as well, but we might not get there. And it's going to be the same thing with the Ashura. There's another Ashura who's going to have a very big kung fu style and a uh, Ashuric brand that I've got to write down. And yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it for them. That's not too bad. Again, I might another invisible thing is I don't know how the lores are going to interact with the become landscape powers quite yet. I have not finished the lores. When the lores are finished, I might find that I need to link them up a little more concretely. And if that's the case, again, it's gonna balloon the writing a little bit. Now, since I know what I don't know in this case, that is a huge advantage because like I know that like I have a lot of intuition about like where I can take those mechanics since I kind of can see where because we're going to not explore territory, but I can kind of see what I can't see. Like I'm looking at all the peaks and it's sort of revealing to me the valleys. And even though I don't know specifically what's in the valleys, I've got a good method for charting them. So, you know, we're not gonna. They're simply not as deep of valleys, and they're more apparent to me this time around because I'm not designing a whole system from the ground up. I'm just doing a supplement, and we are doing new cool stuff with the supplement. But you know, it's still just not as daring as making a whole new game. So that's where we are with the writing and with the Kickstarter. And yeah, this was probably the most boring version of this video I've made so far. But it's also the most concise. So this is the one I'm going to post. Thank you all for coming with me on this journey. I will be doing some writing and giving you guys some tasty tidbits to enjoy. Take care, and I'll see you next update.